So you want to know how to actually find high ticket clients. But here's a small problem. You're ready to take on and onboard high ticket clients, but you don't have any clients. And trust me, I've been here before. I've done that. And when I first started my businesses, I always needed clients. When I first started as a freelancer, I would need clients for my copywriting and high ticket closing contracts. When I started launching my own services and high ticket offers, I needed clients for my coaching and agency work and consultancy too. And even right now, as I'm starting to play bigger 10x games, I want clients for my high-end strategy consulting and creator mastermind. And so if you're stuck trying to find clients, I totally feel you. The question that has been flooding my DMs is, how do I find clients as a high ticket closer? So I'm here to help. Think of this as a free lifeline. So you won't need to buy a high ticket program or buy my course for the secret sauce like all of your other gurus are pitching you. I'm just gonna leak everything out for free. So this video is a full guide on how I find my high ticket clients. And no, you won't need to join any random Facebook groups, spam random people, or pitch your mom. Everything I'm talking about is what I've done and I still do. These days, it's pretty rare where I have to cold pitch anyone and slide into anyone in the DMs for business. Over time, I built out this really strong referral network and really great friends where I don't have to look for clients. People come to me and they refer me. And if you don't believe me, here's some receipts. I have Vanessa Lau, Scott Alford, some ClickFunnels gurus, and a lot of close friends as well. And by the end of this video, we'll have a method to attract inbound clients. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of upfront work if you want a strong referral system because you have to learn the skill of making friends. But don't worry, if you need cash flow really quickly, we have some really cool methods that I don't think anybody's really talked about. I hope you know with this video, like my methods are always changing. I'm learning new things. And by the way, I'm not a master at natural client acquisition, but by sharing my methodology of how I do it, not only it'll help you that is watching this, but it'll really help me refine my process too, and also stop those annoying spammers that are always in my DMs for some reason. I highly recommend that you personalize the process too. Find what works for you as well. And if you can't watch this video completely, maybe it's time to quit and reconsider your path. Respectfully. Business probably isn't for you if you have the attention of a 15-year-old addicted to TikTok. Anyways, in today's video, we're going to talk about the biggest problem that most beginners make when looking for a client, what to look for in a client, who to target, the 4 different client acquisition strategies that most people don't even talk about, how to create an irresistible offer for beginners, and I left timestamps below just in case you want to jump around. So let's get into it. So if you're new to business and all that, you need to make client acquisition your top priority. You need to figure this out ASAP. No matter what business you're in, client acquisition is the lifeline of your business. So often we hear terms like, oh, cash flow is the oxygen of your business. And it's quite true. No clients means no cash flow. No cash flow means a dying business. And it doesn't matter who you are, what you do. And while in the modern day, your business dying doesn't mean you physically dying. A dying business means maybe it's living in your mom's basement again and castrating your dating life. Maybe it's going back to those Sunday nights, dreading those moments where you have to sit in traffic for an hour just to go in and just do mind-numbing work for 8 hours the next day. Maybe it's enduring the BS 9-to-5 corporate politics from your asshole manager who secretly hates you. And yes, I'm talking about you, Michael, you piece of that was personal. The sad thing is, the people I started out with, I've seen so many of my friends go back to this life because of cash flow. And the kicker, the longer that you stay at your job, the deeper the trap, making it harder for you to get out. You might not believe it, but you might get very cozy with the thought of promotions, raises, and stability. And at some point, the idea of starting over again is harder, if not impossible, to accept. You can't just step away from the salary, especially if you dig yourself deeper with kids, a home. It's hard to go back. And the truth is, before you go back to your job, you need to ask yourself, is this something I want to do for the next 40 years? What type of person would I be coming out of this? This is the dark reality if you're a beginner. This is why it's so important to get clients ASAP. But I hate to break it to you, finding clients as a beginner, it feels like your first job out of college. No one wants to hire you because you lack experience, but you can't get experience because, well, no one wants to hire you. It's a catch-22. The truth is, the path can be hard. It can be long. It took me alone 10 months to get my first solid client, but it doesn't have to be that way. The good news is, once you find your client, it's way easier to get your second, third, fourth client from there. So how do you escape the rat race? Well, the problem is you're probably doing client acquisition wrong. So maybe you followed your favorite guru advice of sending DMs to influencers. By the way, let's retire that word. Maybe you're cold messaging on LinkedIn and randomly applying to job posts, and crickets, nothing. the worst response ever. So then you resort to networking, which means pitching people and going to your mom, your friends about, hey, do you need a high ticket closer? Binging endless amount of YouTube tutorials with the same generic advice of send more messages, it's a numbers game. And then you start desperately joining Facebook, WhatsApp, Discord, and Telegram groups, only to find that 90% of those opportunities are shady crypto offers and new offers that you can't make money on, or they even ghost you even though they told you comment closer with a fire emoji. It goes to show you that where you source your contracts from, your gigs, is really, really important. The trouble with a lot of Facebook groups is that most of them are free, meaning anyone and everyone, including your mom, can join. And this actually translates to battling an army of teenagers for the same role. And being the one that I was hiring as well, I would get tons of applications, tons of DMs. It often commoditized the person. I just didn't have the time to actually look over these applications in depth and get to know people as humans. That's something important to realize. It's not a value of your self-worth. Then right about when you're giving up, you get targeted for an ad. Your favorite guru will guarantee clients for you. Then you see people shelling out thousands to their favorite high ticket closer or guru for training, which doesn't solve the root problem of clients. But what's the catch? A lot of these opportunities aren't that great. Maybe they're for shady crypto offers or clients where they're just starting out and you can't really earn anything because the product isn't validated. No matter what you do, nothing is working. And even when you do get a rare response, it's a no thanks or stop spamming me. The traditional spray and pray method isn't cutting it. You're stuck. You don't know what to do. If you feel like it's soul crushing, that's because it is. I've been here before. So what's the problem? What do you really need to do here? The truth is, you just need to make meaningful relationships and connections for yourself. Let me tell you a story. When I first started in the high ticket sales world, a guru with a 3-letter name told me that a high income skill was in demand. All I would need to do is buy a program, learn the skill, and all the opportunities would magically come to me. Now for me, I know to take everything with a grain of salt. In the TLDR version, he was wrong. And I was like, there's probably something that I didn't see. Here are some of the things I didn't realize until I got in the game. First, opportunities like secrets, they only open up to experienced closers with solid networks. And that last part is important. Second thing is most courses won't help you secure clients, period. They help you with client fulfillment, which solves a different problem. And even if someone guarantees you an offer, there's no guarantee that these offers are any good. And even if they are financially solid, there also has to be internal alignment with the offer, meaning that you actually have to like working for them or want to work with them as well. The third thing is 80% of most beginners will lose their first client. And it's not because of your self-worth or being good enough. It's because you haven't developed the soft and hard skills of things like account management, the art of tactful communication, conflict resolution, and sales fulfillment too, which is pretty much your job. And knowing this fact that most beginners will fail, that's a problem. There's just too much at risk and little benefit for someone like me that knows a lot of people to just refer over a random stranger. All of this is very important because you need to put yourself into someone else's shoes. Because back in the day with my offer, I used to refer students onto other offers. What I realized is that the older, more professional clients, they did really, really well and they made their money back within the first 2 weeks. But then there was the younger crowd, the more inexperienced, your 20-year-old kid. What I realized was that they were experienced. They acted unprofessionally. They would even ghost my clients and kind of burn my relationship with my friends. Now, it didn't destroy it completely, but did kind of make things a little bit rocky for a bit because that was my reputation, my personal brand that I worked so hard to put myself on. I take full responsibility for that, by the way. And a lot of people might say, oh, that won't be me. But the truth is, when you don't start performing well or you get these survival instincts that hit, people will fight, flight, or freeze. You might not like hearing this, but your best bet is to be very real with yourself and don't delude yourself with someone with finding you a client when you're brand new, when you have zero sales experience or anything. Because if you learn how to fish, you never have to rely on anyone ever again. So you might be asking, well, what kind of clients should I approach then? How do you know what's a great client? And that leads me to the next point. Approach the dream clients, not the clients from hell. So the first step to all of this, to client acquisition, is just knowing who's a great client and who's not. It's more than just having a high ticket offer. Anyone can put a sales page together. Anyone can just say that they have a high ticket offer together. What's a lot deeper is that they have a personal brand. And over the last few months, I've just been diving deeper and deeper into personal brand. Been following people like Chris Stowe, Vanessa Lau, Mike Kim. And what I realized is that a personal brand is not a product. It is not a testimonial. It's not having an LLC or anything like that, or like an S Corp. A strong personal brand has nothing to do with vanity numbers either, such as likes, comments, or followers. When you come across a personal brand, you know why they do exactly what they do. You feel this connection. That's because they build a relationship with people. And when you're closing for a strong personal brand, it's exponentially easier to close deals because you don't need to build trust with a brand or product, because when they jump on the call, there's an existing relationship and trust. At the end of the day, a personal brand at its core is a person. It has a voice, thoughts, look, feel, and most importantly, connection when you interact with it. This is very important when it comes to sales because you need to ask, do my values align? Am I able to align my values with this brand or personal brand that I'm working with? Ideally, you want to align with the personal brand. Think about it. Gary Vee has his hustle vibe. Hormozi exudes his gym bro vibe. Chris Do channels his inner designer, and Vanessa Lau radiates her boss babe vibe. I mean, real talk, can you imagine closing for someone like Vanessa Lau and just being like, super broy? It'll probably turn off a lot of her audience. Not saying it's impossible, by the way. But when I think about personal brands, the most important thing is that they actually stand for something. They're actively producing thought-provoking content that isn't just spat out by and auto-generated by ChatGPT. They have a vision and a mission that you can actually feel, gravitate to. Others will gravitate to it too. And something that you actually give a about. The strongest personal brands know what do they think is total BS. What uncommon beliefs do they have that should be more widely shared? What are the painful points in their life that they've experienced to help other people with? What breaks their heart and what pisses them off? These are keys to a personal brand. The other thing that you need to look out for is their market needs to be growing exponentially. So one of the things I realized was when a client is targeting a thriving market, you can expect thriving revenue. And when that happens, all the budget concerns dissolve away. But the real question is, how do you know if your client is in a thriving market? Well, according to Alex Hormozi in his book, 100 Million Offers, a thriving market includes, number one, massive pain. So what's the big problem that they're trying to solve? And a lot of people going through it. The second thing is purchasing power. Do they have the ability to afford your services? The next thing is easy to target. So are they easily identifiable or recognizable? I like to think of it as going to a Vegas conference, right? And so can you find them at a convention or via paid ads? And then the most important thing, a growing market. So is a market growing or shrinking over time? Knowing that you have a thriving market will reduce the friction of the sale. It'll eliminate most of the budget objections that you get, and you won't need to convince people to buy it because the product or service is in high demand. Think about being in a desert. Do you really need that much persuasion to sell a bottle of water? Not really. The other thing to look for in clients is that you're aligned with them. So there's this saying that it bothers me so much. Beggars can't be choosers. But here is a bitter pill to swallow. You'll always be a beggar if you're not selective. So the quickest way to make your life a living hell is to work with a client that you resent working with and you absolutely hate. So imagine this, you spend 20, 30, 40, maybe even 80 hours with a client that you despise. Doesn't sound like fun, right? So why subject yourself to that hell? Instead, what I like to do is look for someone who you're inspired by, someone that you actually want to work with, someone that you can learn from, someone that you want to strategize with, and someone that you see potential mutual benefit for growth. No matter how crafty you are or how bad you try to hide it, it always shows when you're focusing on work that you hate. And most of all, you start resenting yourself for even getting into that situation to begin with. So why even put yourself in that situation in the first place? If you need cash quick, totally get it. But this is just something to keep in mind. The other thing to look in a client is you see a long-term relationship. Let's be real. No one ever says in my years and years in this industry, no one ever says, I love jumping from client to client. The truth is client hopping is really exhausting. It feels like dating. You go on a date, ask the same questions, and eventually when you do find someone, you find that things don't work out or it's a major red flag and they dump you. And then you get disappointed because all those dreams of like buying a house and having a dog and starting a family together just die with that relationship. And you're mourning for the next 1 to 2 years. Ooh, is that me? Okay, back to business. The truth is client churn is very, very normal. But if we can minimize it and optimize the relationship for long-term growth, that would be ideal. For example, when I was partnering up with digital marketing agencies with my friends, we arranged a recurring revenue for the lifetime of a client. And so I was more than happy to stay long term. So if someone shoots you a low commission percentage, or maybe they want you to go outside of scope like cold calling or anything like that, really think carefully. Are you going to resent this in the long term? If so, you either leave or you negotiate a higher number too, with a base or a higher percentage. And trust me, from the client side, once you have someone really solid, you definitely want to keep them. Clients don't like sales turnover either. The other thing you need to look for is a validated high ticket offer. So just because your client has a high ticket sales page doesn't mean that they're a high value client. There's many people who are just starting who have never even sold or had validated sales there who think that they need a closer. But the truth is, if the founder can't even sell the product, what makes a random salesperson be able to close it? Because if a founder who's very passionate about their project can't close a deal, then how is a salesperson who typically are motivated by money, my experience, right? How are they supposed to close a deal either? Yes, there's things like persuasion skills and all that, but typically that's a red flag in my case. So how do you know if a client has a validated offer? So a nifty way that I saw this YouTube channel, Luke Alexander, do it is he started an IG account to see who's running paid ads to offers. You can train your accounts by following different thought leaders in the space and just see who's running paid ads to their high ticket offers. Because chances are if they're running paid ads to their offers, they're probably scaling. And that's the problem you solve for. You solve for scale and conversions when you're doing high ticket closing. You need both. So here's some things that I actually like to look for. The first thing I look for is that they not only have proof of concept sales, but they're generating consistent sales and revenue weekly, monthly, or some sort of time duration that you want to get paid out in. The second thing I look for is that they have a traffic source that are generating leads. Usually that means paid or organic, but personally, I like if they have a really strong personal brand because that means a lot of organic and warmer traffic. The third thing I look for is that they have a pre-qualification stage, like application, that kind of irons out the few objections like timing or money and all that. Keep in mind, if it goes straight to a sales call, you as a inbound closer or anything like that, or high ticket closer, are going to be wasting a lot of time just qualifying people when that could just be done automatically. The other thing is that they have social proof on their product, like testimonials. The next thing I look for is that they actually have a commission percentage where you can actually make a living with. What I like to do is take this number, it's called dollar per lead, or it's basically revenue per lead. I multiply that with the commission percentage, and I multiply that with the number of calls that I'm expected to take per week. They'll give you an average amount of how much you can make on an offer. Another thing is I look for people who are actively selling on the offer. So if they have other sales reps, that's usually a good sign, and that they have integrity and they're focused more on fulfillment versus cash collected. Can't tell you how many businesses, especially in the ClickFunnels world, where I've seen it rise and crash in less than 2 years. Keep in mind, if some of these are missing, it's not the end of the world, but just know if they are missing, you're potentially exposing yourself to risk. And that's not a bad thing either. As Peter Drucker says, all profit is derived from risk. So if you are taking more risks, you deserve to charge more. Okay, so now that we can identify our dream clients, do we just start DMing randoms? Well, not exactly. Let's talk about the real problem here. Your relationships suck. As a beginner, you have zero relationships, you have no leverage. And when I say your relationship sucks, I'm not talking about Sandy, your high school sweetheart, or Patrick who trains at your local 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu gym. I'm talking about professional relationships that end in referrals. So let's take your typical beginner who's probably spamming me in my DMs as we speak right now. Look at some of these messages that I get. Keep in mind, not all these are bad, and some of them actually lead with value, but there's one thing that they're all missing. Hey Kevin, this is a shameless way to start a conversation, but I can help you supercharge your content and quadruple your engagement. What do you say? Okay. Notice this guy messaged me at 3:41. Hi, sir. Can you refer me as a high ticket closer? I don't know you, and why would I do that? Just wondering, are you by chance looking for a commission based closer? I've closed 4 million in sales. So like I said, not all these are bad, and I'm sure there's some instances where people actually get a reply. But do you see the common trend? This is why I notice all these messages ignore the cardinal rule. Put yourself in their shoes. Try to understand what the other person is going through, because this is what's going through my head. Who are you? Even if what you're saying is true, how can I believe you? Why would I hire you? I have zero connection with you. You aren't my friend, my student, my client. I don't care how many deals you close. I don't care that you took a course from XYZ Guru. Are you going to burn through my leads or just make a quick commission? Or even worse, are you going to burn my relationship and hurt my personal brand, something that I worked so hard for all these years? And trust me, I have way more DMs. These were just the recent ones. But if this is you, this is not your fault. Most people, they suck at DMs, and it's a real problem. But the good news is, this is a skill, which means this can also be learned. Because I don't know where we're taught, but we think that 95% of the population will respond to us and will land a client suddenly by sending, "Hi, how are you?" A straight sales pitch with no prior connection, a long block of text that takes too much time to read and hurts your eyes, especially if the same sentences aren't spaced out, sending a 10-minute unasked for voicemail or video that is super generic that starts off with, "Hey you." We know that's generic, by the way. And the truth is, you have to approach DMing and contacting people very tactfully and tactically as well. Especially if you're reaching out to a bigger account that gets more than 10 DMs an hour, that person probably doesn't check them that often, and usually they skim over them just to see if there's anything important. The core issue is that there's no tactical empathy, meaning most people don't think to put themselves in the other person's shoes. They don't ask, how can I stand out from the sea of crappy DMs that don't provide any value before asking for something in return? And that value is a relationship. So how do you reach out to these people then? There's 4 different strategies I use, and we'll start from fastest to slowest. If you need clients fast because you're short on cash flow, I totally get it. But just know that you're gonna grind and pitch a lot more. But if you're patient and you're focused on the long game of building relationships, you'll get a much better ROI on your time. Your opportunities will be way better and way warmer too. It'll be your golden ticket. So let's talk about the first method. Method 1, the art of strategic cold applications. So some gurus will tell you spam your CV and resume at every job posting until you hit the job jackpot. But this alone feels like a full-time job. To be honest, I know how frustrating it can be being new, spending hours finding, applying, and sending out applications, only get ghosted, just like my ex-girlfriend. But just know, if you feel rejected, self-doubt, this is all very, very normal. The roadblock isn't a reflection of your value or anything like that. It's just the nature of the game, especially if you're doing cold outreach. So don't let it discourage you. In my opinion, cold outreach in this sort of fashion is the worst ROI on your time. Most of the time you spend all this time perfecting your resume, your application, only to get ignored. But if you need a client fast, this might be your only option. So let's go over the quick pros and cons of this too. So the pros of cold outreach, like in application processes, you know that they need help. You know that they have a system in place, and you don't need to know anyone to get the job. The cons is it's more structure, it's harder to negotiate, it's more competitive, and there's a high chance of being left on red. So if we want to do this cold outreach, right, even though we know it's going to be a grind, where do we start looking? Sure, there's like traditional things like Upwork, and there's traditional boards like Indeed, but my goldmine, Dynamite Jobs. What I like about Dynamite Jobs is that it's remote, it's filled with cool businesses and startups as well. It's a little bit more corporatized, and you might not always find the inbound sales role, but it's a great start to get experience if you don't have any. But whatever you choose is really up to you. So here's some tips that I might have for looking. So you can look on Indeed or Google for high ticket sales closers or high ticket closer. There are other terms like enrollment advisor, inbound closer, high ticket sales, inside sales. And if you're brand new, you can also look up appointment setters or inbound setter too. And like I said, there's always roles on Facebook groups, but those are not my favorite. So if you apply through the front door method, you're going to have to create a resume. So how do you create a killer resume? We have this tool called Canva. Seriously, Canva is like one of my favorite tools. It does all these social media things, but they also have stock resume templates all for free. And it's great even if you suck at design. If you want to use my affiliate link below, it would support my channel, and I appreciate that. If you learn how to use Canva really quickly, it can make your application really stand out from a design level. The next step is customize each resume with a short letter of intent. So 95% of these people in this industry won't do this because they're lazy, especially with things like ChatGPT these days. What I like to do is copy and paste my bio along with the job description of the role. And by doing this, you can ask ChatGPT to write a short 300 character descriptions along with asking you any sort of context to make the description even better. So while we scoped out an opportunity, maybe we've sent out an application, this isn't enough, because remember, how are we going to stand out from all the other applicants that are applying? Everyone else is doing the same. And something to keep in mind is if you're a beginner, like most of you guys watching this, you have zero experience. So now it's time to play your trump cards. Let's talk about them. Number 1, uncover your unfair advantage. Hormozy always likes to talk about reframing your position, meaning you take your weaknesses and position it into a strength.
In any kind of game position, so like in business, every position has advantages and disadvantages. And so what happens is people are in this small position where they're more nimble, they can give more personalized attention to people, etc., and they see it as a pure disadvantage.
So, for example, you might not have a lot of experience. Some people might perceive it as a weakness. What are some strengths that you can bring to the table? Maybe it's that you're 100% focused on this offer. Maybe you can lower the risk for them by offering some of the other offers like being an appointment setter or a inbound setter, which we'll talk about later. But it's all about reframing your position. And this is a skill. For instance, some things I like to ask is, how can I leverage my previous experience that might be relevant for this offer? So maybe you don't have the experience to do sales, but you have all this other experience by taking other people's programs, and you can actually resonate with the clients a lot more. There's a great book by my friend Hassan Kuba, and he actually has this framework of how to uncover your unfair advantage too. You should check it out. I never did sales in my life. So for me, I leverage my pharmacist background, my professionalism, my digital marketing experience, and YouTube skills I have. Something that I've noticed, like even now, 5 years into this game, I've built out a lot of skills, and skills take time. And what I like to do is start writing down my interests and start writing down some of the professional skills I've had. So the real question is, what unfair advantages can you bring to the table? Trust me, there's so many industries, you'll find something that resonates with you. The next thing to make your application stand out is to create an irresistible offer to be an inbound setter. So the gurus back in the day used to say, I close high ticket deals on a 100% performance basis at no risk to you. If you don't make money, then I don't make money. So it's risk free. But what people don't realize is saying this is a huge mistake. Especially beginners, they don't realize it costs money for a CRM. It costs money to acquire leads, especially through paid ads. Then there's the intangible costs of like the opportunity cost of converting a lead and brand reputation. Beginners often overlook the time, the costs, and risk to hiring someone new. But the gurus were right about one thing. What they were trying to do was create an irresistible offer. And so we can mitigate that risk by offering to be an inbound setter, which is different from being an appointment setter. Here's the difference. With appointment setting, you're often sending DMs and making outbound calls to just book appointments for the closing team and inbound setters. Inbound setting is like qualifying and triaging the calls to the top performing closers so that you can maximize the profitability of each call. This gives us hands-on experience in qualifying leads and interacting with clients without the stress of closing deals. Plus, by talking to so many people, we pick up a lot of valuable skills along the way. The next way to really make your application stand out is slide into their DMs with the personal messages. So applying is enough. You need to shoot a personalized message to the gatekeeper, especially if it's a bigger company. It might be the founder or business owner if they're a startup, or a sales manager if they're a little bit bigger. Keep it casual. I like to keep things concise and personal and just say something like, hey, just want to give you a heads up. I submitted my application for the closing role at XYZ. I know you're busy, but I just want to let you know I'm super thrilled about the prospect of closing for this role and getting to know each other too. Put in your own words, obviously, because if they talk to you and you don't speak like I do, then they know it's complete BS. It's a copy and paste. So customize it. And that's what ChatGPT is for too. Here's a bonus tip. Send a 30-second personalized Loom or voice message. So back in the day, this was a really, really hot tactic with Loom videos because Loom is new. But these days, it's not so much. Personally, I get bombarded with the 10-minute generic message with the unfolded laundry in the back. Pro tip, clean your room. Second pro tip, don't start off the video with, hey you. We know it's generic. But still, if you do this right, I think it's a very personal way to reach out. It just shows that you're very genuine and worth their time. And if you don't know what to say, I like to look for a shared interest or connection that you can find from their YouTube or IG content. Podcasts are really great for that too. Where you're based, let them know that you replied, share a genuine compliment about them and the real reason why you applied for them aside from the cash, your irresistible offer if you feel like it's appropriate. The most important thing is that you don't want to shoot a generic ass video like a hey you video. People can really realize that. And that leads me to my last point. Personalize, personalize, personalize. Again, applying just doesn't cut it. Something about me is that I've been doing YouTube for a long time and I actually spent 80 hours crafting a personalized video for this 200K, actually it's 200 pounds, which is way more, head of sales role for a podcast company in the UK. This was a custom tailored video, kind of like a mini video sales letter. Hey Lower Street, I'm Kevin. First thing, parsnip. Anyways, in case you don't know me, I'm a licensed pharmacist turned inbound sales strategist, YouTube creator, and 10th planet jiu-jitsu practitioner. Within a day, I actually landed an interview. I tell you this because I'm not telling you create a high quality video. It takes a lot of time. These are just skills I learned, but you need to bring your unique angle to the table. Since I've been in this space for a while, I can do YouTube, I can speak to camera quite naturally. Just letting them know who I was, my passion for content creators, and just sharing my experience that was applicable to the role. And my strategy really was to show, not tell, that I'm a unique applicant that's perfect for the role. Because it's not enough to just tell people that you're diligent, hardworking, personable, or unique. It's important to just show it instead. One thing that I like to think about is, how can you demonstrate your strengths? How can you be so good so that they can't ignore you? And your skills might be different. It might not be a video. Maybe it's giving them a unique connection or something that they've always wanted. Like if someone says, I want this podcast guest, and you can actually arrange it, you add value there. Use your strengths and be creative with it. Just know that all these tactics though are very, very high risk. Imagine spending 80+ hours on a video and not paying it off at all. And that's a risk you take, because as you go through this process, ghosting and non-responding is normal, however much it sucks. But just remember, as you navigate this journey, focus on building the network of people and relationships as you meet people, as you go on these interviews, and it will stack up over time. So now let's get into my favorite strategy, the S-curve strategy. Picture this: you just met someone at a bar, and 24 hours later, you pop the "will you marry me" question. It sounds a little bit crazy, right? But that's exactly what so many beginners are trying to do. They're trying to marry on the first date, and a lot of it stems from our own insecurities as well. Like I said earlier, the real problem is that your relationships suck, at least professionally. Some of the evidence might be you aren't getting any opportunities from any friends. You might not have friends that you can actually lean on for any opportunities. And your friends just seem to be guarding their network rather than sharing it. So how can we supercharge these relationships? The short answer is be a friend, not just a random connection. So to be honest, my whole life I've been doing it quite naturally. Back when I was a kid, my mom used to drop me off at a park and I would just make random friends with the kids in the playground. When I got older, toward my college days, they called me friend zone. Trust me, that's not the name that you want in college, but when I was looking back at these times, from my childhood days of the park to my pharmacy years and up until now, I sometimes wonder, how the heck did I become friends with some of these people? And over the last year, I met some really, really cool people. Some of them were just passing by. Others were really, really close friends now. But some of the cool people I met last year were Sean Kennel from Think Media, Vanessa Lau, Chris Do, Mike Kim, Alex and Layla Hormozy, and many more. I didn't cold pitch any of these people. It all happened very, very organically. I was just focused on nurturing relationships instead of seeing people as stepping stones or transactionally. And when you do this, magical things happen organically. And when I started diving into Dan Koh's work, I realized I wasn't alone in this no agenda approach. This is my secret sauce, my secret strategy called the S-curve. Let's take a look really quickly at this graph. This is obviously an S-curve on the screen. Pretty boring, nothing really special, right? It looks like an S. If we take a look at it very closely, it starts with a slow initial growth, speeds up exponentially, and then finally hits a plateau or saturation point. So how does this actually translate to getting clients? And the problem is most people are chasing the Gary V's, the Tony Robbins, the Russell Brunsons, but this is a big mistake because you'll probably never get a hold of them. And the solution is start with the students before moving on to the teachers. Chances are the mini Gary V's, the mini Tony Robbins, the mini Vanessa Lau's of the world still have room for exponential growth and are way more accessible too. So if you can start making friends with these rising stars, there's a high chance that you'll be able to work with them. I've used this not only for paid work, but also just making friends as well. And so really the key secret is to not go for the mentors, which I hate that word by the way, and really go for the mentees and work our way down from the top down. There's 7 steps to this system. So let's kind of go over them. Step 1, find someone that you want to actually DM. You can't fake liking someone. And plus, would you really want to make your life a living hell talking to someone that you don't even resonate with? When you're deciding who to approach, there's a few things I like to consider. I like to consider someone who inspires me, someone that I actually want to work with, someone that I want to strategize with, and someone that I see potential mutual benefit with. So if you're new and your brand isn't well established, this is way more challenging. However, as your network expands and your journey becomes more public, it gets way easier. So where can you find these people? Where can you find these mentees? Where can you find these students these mini versions of these people that we look up to DM. There's a few places I like to check out. So the first place I like to look are testimonials on sales pages. I like to see who their students are, what they're kind of doing, their success stories, right? The second area that I really like to look at are accounts on platforms. So on IG and Twitter, there's usually recommended accounts to follow that are similar to that creator. And then what I do is click on those accounts and check out those recommended accounts there. I also like engaging in the comment section just to see who's most active too, especially on Twitter. This is why I call it sliding down the S-curve, because some of these contacts might be clients, others might just become friends, and some of them might become your raving fans, your biggest touch point for referrals. I think far too often beginners focus way too much on the immediate transaction, and they forget about networking and relationship building, and making friends isn't a one-on-one game. The real value emerges when your connections introduce you to their connections. Let's talk about the second step. Step 2, send them specific heartfelt appreciation DMs. So don't be another spammer. Don't send another copy and pasted message from ChatGPT. We can all tell it from a mile away. And it makes it way more obvious when, people are lazy and they don't check their work and they leave the placeholder of name. It's an instant turn off. Instead, you want to be hyper specific and just real with your appreciation DM. It's a real subtle way to say, I'm interested, I personalize, and I pay attention to detail without overtly saying it. It's kind of like those TikTok memes where you see like, hey, tell me you're single without telling me you're single. If you want to increase the chances of a response, follow them a few days before and just engage with their content for a bit before reaching out. You should be doing this anyways. That way they'll recognize your face and profile too. And so some things I like to look out for are pieces of content, work, or a current project that you're inspired by, or something that they've been putting a lot of work and hasn't been getting a lot of love or attention. A specific comment or reply that they left that resonated with you. This is key. A snippet from a podcast or guest feature that they were featured in. Podcasts are really great because people go super, super deep. A piece of advice I gave and that you could implement. And this is a major one. A bonus is buying their paid programs or courses to support them. You might not have the funds, but I always like to do this, and it just shows a lot just by doing this. Then I like to send them a DM and just tell them how that resonated with me. And sometimes I'll even try out the advice that they had too and just let them know how it went. But the key is you can't fake this. This requires you to actually like their work. So here's an example of a DM. I found you the other day through your post on XYZ, and it really resonated with me. Recently, I've been struggling with personal story, and this post helped me how it resonated with me. By the way, I took a piece of advice and this is what happened with this specific result. Anyways, I just want to personally thank you. Made sure to follow you just to make sure I don't miss out on any other cool posts. Anyways, I know you're busy. No response needed. Just want to thank you again. That last part, no response needed, is so important because I find that 90% of the time, if people see it, they'll respond back. And if they don't respond, don't panic. Just reach out to them again with the same zero obligation to respond. Simple as that. Step 3, show genuine interest in them. Initiating a conversation is one thing, but how do you keep it going? Let's assume that they respond with a generic, thank you so much, and that's it. Now you can either find what they're working on from their profile or just ask them if you can't find it. You might be interested in some of their goals, what they're building, experiments they're running, or changes with their business. And this kind of gives you an idea of where you can potentially add value. However, you don't need to be in a hurry to offer your help. It's just noticing these things as well. But most importantly, this is just a conversation starter. So something I would probably send is, hey, I noticed that you launched your mastermind course or product. It's been crazy seeing it grow. How's that going? I noticed that you mentioned that you're looking to get on more podcasts. How's that going? I actually used this one with Vanessa Lau, and that's how we started connecting. I noticed that you changed the style of your recent video. How's that going? What was the decision behind that? If you can't find what they're working on, you can always ask, do you have anything you're building right now? After a look at your content, I'm sure you have something bigger in the works. The aim at the end of the day is to just show genuine curiosity without any transactional expectations. Just keep an eye out for anything that they might be struggling with as well. Step 4, offer value. Now, offer value is very, very vague. It's one of the most overused terms, but what is offering value? The way I look at value is reducing the friction that it takes to get someone to their goals, or being a catalyst to resolving a problem. And the biggest mistake I see most beginners make is diving straight for a transaction. What that does is just inevitably kills the relationship. Because the truth is, people don't always want your help, but showing that you're willing to help can go a really long way. It just shows your intentions. Some people like sending content or resources over, like Dan Ko likes that, Ramit Sethi likes that, but that's not really my style. Given you're meeting a lot of people, you can harness that. This is how you can see where you might be able to help. 1, you can offer an introduction to a connection in your network. 2, you can invite them to an event you're hosting, like a mini workshop, a networking event, a focused mastermind. I love casual events like arcade nights or axe throwing or something random like that. It just takes the intent off like business for a bit. And then the third thing is just having a good conversation and just building a relationship. There's a lot of value in that. The point is just to demonstrate your readiness to lend a helping hand versus like try to sell someone really, really quick. Step 5, these are my favorite. Arrange a casual chop it up call. Now, this is a game changer for me. Like text exchanges are fine, but nothing beats the interaction of getting to know someone through actual conversation. It brings out your personality, your quirks, your mannerisms that text can't convey. I found that most people are open to a call, especially when they know that you're not trying to sell them anything or pitch them. That's why I like to do these no pressure chop it up calls. But the biggest mistake people make is just trying to force it. People can be busy. Life happens. Especially if you're an owner or anything like that. You might not be focused on chopping up with people. But okay, what do you do if they say yes? Personally for me, I like to keep initial calls short and sweet, 15, 20, maybe max 30. And from there, we can always schedule a longer chat. And on the call, I like to take note of their goals, their challenges, common interests during these calls. And post-call, like I find that after we meet up, the interactions become pretty casual, and I've been even known to send a meme or two out to people. Step 6, follow up with value. Something I realize is people really appreciate when you notice the small things. So remember their goals or common interests and challenges. I like to keep out for content, resources, or connections that might help them, or even events too. When I find something, I just send it their way. A message might look like, hey, I remember you mentioning you need help with XYZ. I found this, or I know this person, thought it might be helpful. It'll change from time to time. And the reason why I like to do this after a chop it up call is that I can make it hyper specific. So sometimes I'll send a jujitsu meme over to someone. Other times I'll invite someone to an open mat. Other times it'll be a YouTube video, an IG reel, or a post that I found. Sometimes I'll even offer to make an introduction to someone that I met that could really help them out or that they would really get along. You'd be surprised how many people feel so lonely in the YouTube or entrepreneurial journey. The key though, behind anything you do is intention, and people can feel that. Step 7, make an ask. So by now you probably forged a really solid connection. You've probably gone from strangers to friends, really good friends hopefully. And if you're not quite there yet, you don't need to force it. You don't need to rush it. Sometimes it takes a week, sometimes it takes a few months. At the end of the day, just trust your intuition and let the relationship grow organically. And once you have that genuine connection, you can make an ask. You can invite them to a mastermind group. You can ask them any specific questions that you have for them. You can share your goals and ask them if they could keep you in mind about getting a client. The last one is probably most applicable to people in the high ticket closing world. So it might look like this. Can I ask for a small favor? I'm trying to look for some new clients for my high ticket closing business, but I'm having some trouble. If you come across anyone that needs help, would you be open to keeping me in mind for an intro? No pressure though, and I appreciate it either way, and I'll make sure to respect the relationship. Notice that I said no pressure. The key is not to force them. The key is to let them decide how they want to help you, if they want to help you, and how they see fit. Even though I should be a lot better at this, you should probably aim to reach out to new people almost daily. And as your network grows, you become increasingly valuable as the go-to super connector. I remember when Vanessa called me this, I was so blessed, and I never really thought about myself like that. But when I realized that I was introducing her to other podcast people like Ali Abdal and all these other accounts, it was really, really cool. But what if you need results a bit quicker? What if you want to network with bigger accounts? And that gets me to method 3, building a referral network of recruiters, agency owners, and colleagues. If you only target business owners, then you're missing out. Sure, the business owner can put you against can refer people, but the best referrals actually come from building a referral network. And the S-curve strategy works great for these type of situations with bigger accounts, especially where there's gatekeepers. See, a few of my friends, they work for Tony Robbins, his sales team, and they have their own sales structure in place. They have existing sales managers, setters, and closers. And the chances are of you sliding into the DMs of Tony Robbins, if he even checks them, is slim to none. This is where befriending the gatekeepers is very, very helpful. But who are the gatekeepers? Let's take a look at these. The first one that comes to mind are high ticket closing agency owners. Agency owners, basically they negotiate bigger contracts with clients. A lot of time they will pay for these high ticket masterminds, make friends with a lot of these people. And then when they ask them about high ticket, and that's how they get these bigger contracts. It's usually a plug and play model, meaning they'll advise on strategy and have a group of freelancers or closers which is you inserting their people, processes, and tools. It's similar to a staff augmentation model in consulting. The next type of gatekeeper I have in mind are sales managers. So these are in-house sales managers who manage the team. They're really responsible for the KPIs, the key performance indicators, the strategy, the hiring, the firing, the interviewing, and handling any issues that deal with the sales team. The next group I like to look at are recruiters. So I like to think of these as matchmakers. Their only goal is to connect a closer with a contract. And once it's a match, they'll typically get a referral bonus ranging from $1,000 to $50,000, depending on the industry. Obviously, they charge more if it's a corporate or bigger things, but these are great people to get to know as well. But you still need to vet your offers. The last one that comes to mind are colleagues. So other high ticket closers. Out of all the roles, these probably have the least amount of influence, but I've had a lot of people give me the inner scoop for open roles. And a lot of times they'll introduce me to sales managers, which is a fast track to a contract without going through the standard application process. A lot of times we'll skip the interview process, but no matter who you make friends with, the goal for all these is just to make friends in all these circles, do great work, connect, while expecting nothing in return. When you deliver great work, they'll come back to you for referrals. And this is how you build your referral network. I still get referrals from all these sources, including the business owners that I mentioned before. A lot of time, people don't know that 99% of my contracts come through referrals only. Over time, if you meet enough business owners, sales professionals, agency owners, and recruiters, they'll eventually come to you. This is how you build your referral network. The real opportunity, including money, is building relationships. Think of it as planting seeds, and I like to focus on relationships, not revenue when you're beginning. Let's talk about the last one. This is the most advanced, but method 4, joining paid high-ticket masterminds. And yes, I said paid. This is a new strategy that I'm working on this year. Like I said earlier, one of the ClickFunnels high-ticket closing agencies, the owner I know, he does this all the time. The key is joining paid masterminds, not free, because it accepts a certain caliber of people. The first time I attended an in-person mastermind was at Vanessa Lau's. The room was really stacked full of content creators and agency owners doing a minimum of 6 figures per year. The cool part was that you just start making friends and work eventually becomes part of the conversation, but not the main focus. You find out what other people do and you keep this in mind. And what I found was a lot of times I'd be the first person they would go to if they needed sales help, or a friend would refer me for an inbound sales opportunity because they trusted me. From that one Vanessa Lau event, I got several inquiries about setting up high ticket closing teams, and I didn't even need to pitch or present or anything like that. It was completely natural, and that's the power of these groups. And I'm not alone. I've heard stories of agency owners of joining exclusive masterminds like Baby Bathwater or Sam Ovens Mastermind and being the go-to guy for agency services like paid media. Even myself, I recently dropped 6 to 7K on some mastermind communities like Mike Kim's, and I joined Dan Koh's group recently too. The con is you need capital for this, but the S-curve strategy still applies for this. So you have these 4 major strategies. And there's probably more. There's probably going to be like cold email in the future and like AI tools, which I'll probably shoot another video about. But even with these strategies, 80% of you will still probably fail. And why is that? The problem is that you're impatient. The problem is you want this now. You're expecting to plant a seed and wait, wanting it to grow into a tree by tomorrow. Realistically, you can do whatever the you want, but it's probably not going to grow. So good luck to you if you're that. And this is what I see with the younger kids these days. They say, oh my God, I'm not getting anything. This is hard. And if this is you, just chill and relax because everyone goes through it. I want you to look at this comment that my student sent me. I'm searching through Facebook groups and Indeed for a gig, but most people are searching for someone who is in the US or Canada. But like I said in the beginning of the video, this is a skill set that you need to learn. We need to be able to look at our situation and see the strengths of it. For example, if you're based out of Europe and you're applying for US roles, maybe you can offer to create that irresistible offer to cover their leads at night. Or maybe you're looking in the wrong places of like searching in a different time zone. There's plenty of closing roles that you can find in the European time zone. But I see so many kids get discouraged so quickly. I always like to remind myself that this isn't impossible. It's not hard. It's hard because I'm perceiving it to be hard. All it is like, it's a skill that we have to learn. And if you're a young kid with no other skills, you're gonna 1000% suck at this because you have no other skills. As you learn more and more skills, you realize these tangential skills help you learn even quicker and you start exponentially growing. But if you feel like you suck, it's not your fault. For me, I didn't secure my first client until six months for my first bad client, and then really 10 months till I got my really great client. So something to ask yourself is, are you okay with not seeing the fruit of your labor or immediate returns for the next 6 months, 1 year, or even 2 years? If not, maybe you should quit. Because like I said, you want to play long-term games with long-term people. And this skill goes beyond just rizzing up potential clients. It's learning how to tactically empathize with people and build really great relationships without an agenda. If you're selfish and you're focusing on yourself, it'll be really, really hard, and best of luck to you. Remember, good karma builds good businesses, and compassion is a good business model. If there's one takeaway that you take from the video, spend 30 days just making friends using my S-curve strategy. It doesn't always have to be with clients. It could be with really, really cool people that you want to meet. Either way, you won't regret it. But there's this one important part that I didn't talk about. What happens when you actually land your client? Maybe you bypass the interview because you built this great relationship. What do you do next? Well, in the next video, I reveal my full inbound closing script along with my free high ticket closing course. Check it out here in the recommended, and here's another video that the algorithm will think that you'll like. Stay compassionate, stay authentic, stay rebellious. Peace.